Hello, Pat. It's Becky.
Hi, Becky. How you doing?
I just heard the guy on the weather say that we're going to get snow tonight.
You're kidding me. No,
No, no,
that's
I am not. I'm like, what did he just say? He said a dusting. I'm like, oh my Lord.
that is nuts.
Yeah, that's exactly what I said. When I got up this morning, it was so chilly and I had an extra jacket on, and I thought I got to work and it dropped like 10 degrees immediately. I'm like, oh, this is not going to be a warm day.
No, I haven't been outside.
Oh no, it's cold. It's 50, it was 52 at like noon and it's dropping.
Mm, mm,
Oh,
mm.
yeah, it's supposed to be spring.
It's supposed to be spring, exactly.
Yep.
So,
I turned sharing screen on already, so you might want to try if you can to see if it will let you, and if not, then I'll do some more tweaking over here.
all right, share screen. I can go check that. All right, this will be this right here. Right.
Oh, perfect.
Okay, you can see that.
Yes, ma'am.
And I will want to shift to the, so you can see that.
Yeah, I can see it in all the slides on the left side too.
Okay, but can you see the bug?
I see the A and I see the lady holding your sign that says what you need to know about building your business.
Okay, so you don't see that. Let me see. Stop.
I see your mouse moving around.
Okay, share screen, because it does have, I do have a couple things up here that I want to share.
Oh, okay.
Let's see, there's that, where is the, why can't we get, I can get that, yeah. Desktop,
Yeah, there you go. Now I see your bug,
okay.
your bumblebee.
The bumblebee, and let's see, can we get, now can you see this?
Yes, I can see your presentation now.
All right, so I think that's what I'll use. That way I can switch back and forth.
Okay. Okay.
And then I also have a 1-minute video I wanted to play, which is this little guy right here.
Okay. All right. Yep, that's fine. I'll just you can leave it all up if you want, or well, I don't know, minimize it all, I guess, or stop sharing screen, whatever, until everybody gets checked in, and then I'll have you put it back up again.
All right, I can do that. I don't see you. Where are you?
I am where it says Peninsula Women's Network. I am right here.
Oh, there you are. Okay.
Oh, there you go.
I see you there. Okay. Do you have a green screen behind you?
I do not. That's my thing I use when I'm doing networking things. Logo and stuff.
All right. Well, I don't do very, I mean, I do networking meetings, but I have only done a couple presentations, mostly for board meetings, which is not exactly very exciting. Not that this is going to be exciting by any stretch.
Well, actually, I might want to talk to you after this is over. I'm thinking of coming up with a new logo.
Oh yeah?
Logo. Well, an additional logo. So I have a whole idea of teaching like the 30-year-old ladies who have little kids. More safety stuff, but focusing on the 30-year-old group.
Okay.
So I want to call them the Mama Bear group or tribe or club or something. So I'm actually thinking about taking that lady logo that's on the screen right there and putting a bear head on her head and arms where her arms are, and have the bear have the red bandana on to kind of focus on the Mama Bear aspect.
Well, I don't know. We could
how hard or easy that is, but it's just an idea.
Let's see. This doesn't go on there. I'm just thinking maybe my light might need to, it looks like it's getting a little dim.
Oh.
Have to be plugged in. Yeah, let me see if I can find the plug. That should be fun. There it is right there. I stuck it to the back of the computer. Oh, how ingenious, Pat. All right, that's better. We are. I think I'm gonna plug it into the laptop. It's long, not as far to go. Yeah, I have my laptop set up and so maybe using it to kind of, I've got a script that I've written out, so you keep track of what I'm saying.
I can understand that.
So anyways, yeah, I decided after I finished this that I think I've timed it out to around 30 minutes.
Oh, okay.
And so, I mean, depending on, you know, how things actually end up going, but I think that I'm covering, I think, about as much as I can do without launching into, you know, like some very technical stuff. And so that's why I am thinking about just doing it just this week.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if that poses, I hope that doesn't pose a problem.
No. Nope, it's whatever you want to do. It's your time. You can do what you would like.
Oh, wow, that's refreshing.
Yeah, I'm like, these, I don't know, in my opinion, they should be whatever you want. You're the speaker, it's your hour, you do what you want to present.
Yeah. Yeah, it should be kind of interesting. I don't know if I could get a bear. It would be interesting to get like a bare arm with the fist up like that. I don't know if I can find
Yeah,
that.
not sure how that would work, but I think if they had a bare head and a woman's arm, I don't think it would look right.
Yeah, so I'm not sure.
I just thought I would look around and see what I could find.
I mean, we could draw it and see what comes up, but start kind of sort of from scratch, so to speak.
Yep.
But, well, no, it's something to think about.
Yep. Figured it wouldn't hurt to try. We had, how many did we have? We had 8, 10, something like that. People signed up. So.
Well, I'll tell you what, if we don't get very many people to actually show up, I mean, it's one thing to sign up, it's quite another thing to actually be there, at least in my experience. And so for these sorts of things. But we can record it and you could put it up, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm staying on with you no matter what's happening. So I want to learn.
Well, there's a couple little things I think that most people don't have a clue about, which I think will be useful information. So.
Okay, good. Yeah, there's 9 people signed up, including me. So not counting you. So there should be 9 other people. I think Melissa said she might be running late. I talked to her earlier this morning.
Okay.
So we'll give people they still have 3 minutes. Can't call them late for 3 more minutes.
That's right. Yeah, I am the secretary for Landowners Association. I have a cabin up in the mountains, and so I'm on the board. And we've done the last year and plus board meetings by Zoom, which is a whole entire fun project.
I don't know. I've kind of gotten used to Zoom now, but I tried to do a Facebook Live 2 nights ago and it did not want me to share my screen, and everything I had to say was on my screen. I mean,
oh boy,
word for word. So
We have, I do a networking kind of accountability with the three other people. And they are using the Google
done
Meetup.
that too. Yeah, I probably should have just done that, but I thought, I don't ever use the Facebook Live. I thought, what the heck? I'm gonna try it and just see what it does. And I don't know. Other people don't seem to have a problem switching back and forth between their face and their presentation, or having their face small like Zoom will do and the presentation up. I could not get it to work. And I practiced before I went live and it worked fine. And the minute I hit live, it was like, nope, it was either me or the presentation. So they got the presentation with me talking, which was fine, but they couldn't see my face. So
That just sucks.
I know, that's what I said. I said, well, I'll be doing Zoom again. Go back to my Zoom stuff. So yeah, that was a little frustrating, but yeah, ended up being a lot longer than I thought. I mean, I can talk and talk and talk and talk, and it was like 45 minutes. And I was like, I want it to be like 30 and have it
Yeah.
kind of
Well,
short. and
That's
condensed.
why I went and wrote a script, and, and I'm going to pretty much follow it, but there's always time. And I don't know if people have questions, that's a whole nother thing, but you can always put the questions in the chat and then go back afterwards. And,
That's true.
so I think that's what I would suggest, that if people have questions, assuming we have people.
Yeah, I don't know where they all went. I'm looking at the emails to see if anybody has emailed anything, because that's what happened last time. They were all emailing me and I wasn't checking my email because I was on live, like on the Zoom meeting, ready to go. They were-
Yeah, right. And there's only so many things you can juggle.
Exactly. Exactly. You got that right. Nope, no messages yet.
Okay, well, let's see, it's only just 6:30, so.
Yep, we'll wait a few more minutes. And if they hop on, fine, and if they don't, that's fine. It's recording anyway, so it's all good. I didn't even realize that we even had a YouTube channel until Jennifer Maroney was telling me about it, I don't know, about a month ago. We had done a bunch of workshops, November, January, February, before I even knew we had a YouTube channel. I was like, I had no idea. I've never heard anybody talk about it in the 2 years I've been in the organization. Nobody's ever said a word. So
I didn't know either, but I was real active in the organization from about 2001 through, maybe, well, up until the time I actually moved from point A to point B. So to about 6 years ago. And so 6 or 7 years ago. And so, hello, we do have a person.
hello.
Hi,
How you doing, Dr. Sandra?
I'm well. I don't want to interrupt your conversation.
I know we're just waiting for you to show up.
Yeah, how are you all? You look great.
Well, thank you. You look
You're
wonderful.
welcome. Yeah. Happy April 1st.
Oh my Lord, my niece's birthday is April 1st.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do they have lots of jokes?
I don't know. When I was teaching, I had this group of really bright kids, and we had a textbook, an art textbook, and so I had put down a challenge for this crew on the chalkboard, page XYZ, lines, whatever, the fourth letter in, and they had to put, and then they had to rearrange it all, and it said Happy April Fool's Day. So,
That is much better than what my husband did to me this morning. Sent me a message and said, oh my gosh, you should go look at the water leak, the water that's on the floor in the living room. That's where our hardwood floors are.
nice.
Okay, so I come downstairs and I'm looking and I can't find water anywhere. And of course, I'm not catching on, and I'm back upstairs and I'm texting back. I'm like, what are you talking? Yeah, he drug the thing out for minutes and minutes and minutes before I realized it was a joke. He's like, I don't have my calendar at work with me today. Can you tell me what day today is? As soon as he said that, I'm like, oh, you're bad. Don't come home right now because I will punch you. he just thought that was hilarious. I'm like,
It was.
It was funny. He had me looking all over the living room. I was looking in the den, in the living room, the dining room. I'm like, what water? What room are we talking about? What?
Gotcha.
Oh
Uh-huh.
yeah, he had me looking all. I was almost late to work. I was looking all over the place.
You must
Yeah.
have, you must have married one of my brothers.
Oh my goodness, he is. Yeah, he's. a jokester. I should have
That
heard.
was a good one.
Yep, it was. I will have to hand it to him. It was very smart. Not catching on. I'm running all over the house looking for water. And the funny thing was, I texted him. I said, "Why didn't you clean it up? Why did you wait for me to find it?"
No surprises.
Yep. Yeah, it was.
How are you, Kathleen?
Good, good. How are you doing, Sandra?
Super wonderful.
Long time no see, but good to see you
Yeah,
now.
Can't believe we're moving so quickly through this year.
Oh,
I
gee.
know. I can't believe it either. It's April already.
Did you all hear we're having snow tonight?
No.
Yes, I was telling Pat, I was listening to the news right before we got on, and Channel 10 says we're having dusting of snow this evening. Get out your extra blankets and cover up your plants if you have them outside. Yes, ma'am.
Wow.
That's what I said. This
As
is
long as we don't get the Texas freeze, we'll be okay.
no,
Oh,
that's true.
geez. My brother was down in that Texas freeze, and I mean to tell you, he really had a time.
Oh,
Yeah, he was fortunate in that he didn't have burst pipes, but a lot of people that he knew, because they didn't have any heat and they had temperatures down below, I mean,
In the
under 20
teens?
degrees in the
Yeah.
teens. And so he said that he just was doing everything he could think of to keep the pipes from getting frozen. So.
yeah.
And newer construction is better because they do actually insulate, but older construction, down there, they didn't insulate necessarily. It's really bad.
Yeah, yeah. I have a couple of students who live in that area and they reported that they were having a hard time and couldn't meet the course requirement for that week to give them a little time. I'm going like, absolutely. That was terrible.
That was very kind of you.
Yeah, I would hope someone would do that for me or my children,
Yeah.
So
Good. Okay, there's Barbara and Dana is there sort of.
yeah.
I just told about you. What? That's in the door.
Let's see, Barbara, let's see who else is here.
Hello, Dana.
Melissa.
Hello,
Melissa. How you doing?
I'm okay.
Good. Did you get moved in?
Yes,
Congratulations.
thank you. Yes,
We-
now we just have to unpack and
Oh.
organize. But
I know that's
it's
work.
good. We're
Yeah,
getting settled.
yeah. That's great.
All right, well, it's 6:36, so I guess we'll go ahead and get started. Just so everybody knows, this is recording, so we can view it later for our members. So welcome, everybody. This is Peninsula Women's Network. It's a workshop night for us. Miss Pat Harvey is going to talk to us about logos and designs, and I am very excited to find out stuff I don't know anything about it. So very excited to learn from her. And we're going to go around and let everybody introduce themselves, and then we'll let Pat introduce herself last so that she can just start her presentation right after that. So Melissa, since Melissa is our president, I'm going to let Melissa introduce herself real quick. And then Dana, since she's the president-elect. And then we'll go from there.
I'm sorry. Sorry, I have like a house full of kids doing Girl Scouts and stuff right now, so I'm make it fast because they're kind of loud. But I am Melissa Thompson. I'm the current PWN president. I work for Dr. James A. Burden and Associates, so I do all the marketing for that. And I also sell doTERRA oils as well as own Hampton Roads Combat Games. So I'm just all over the place, but I'm excited to see Pat's presentation tonight.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, Dana, why don't you go ahead and go?
Hi, I'm Dana Qualteri, realtor with Remax Peninsula. And so I help people that are, buy, sell, invest any questions and things about the real estate and their investments there. I am your president-elect, and I'm excited. It's always nice to hear Pat speak, and I always learn something new on these topics. And so I'm looking forward to learning something that'll help keep us looking professional.
Awesome. All right. How about Dr. Sandra?
Well, Jambasana, I am Coach Sandra Sessoms Penny of Inevitable Growth Life Coaching and Consulting. I help people to get their lives together from the beginning to the end. Whatever they're waiting to do, I help them follow through. So I'm also very happy to see Pat again. It's been a while and I love hearing you present. So I'm here tonight to support you and to learn. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
All right, Kathleen, how about you next?
Hi, everybody. I'm Kathleen Brittenauer with Long and Foster Real Estate. I specialize in residential real estate. And right now I'm looking for people who want to list their house to sell this spring. We have low inventory and we need some help getting some inventory out there for the many buyers who are going to be out looking this spring. Thank you.
Very good. All right, Barbara. How about Miss Barbara? You have to unmute yourself, Barbara.
Okay, am I better now?
Yes, you're good.
Okay, good evening, everybody. I'm Barbara Gibson, and I am owner of Captured Images by Barbara. I'm a fine art photographer, and what I do in my business is I offer you images that are just extraordinary, unique, things that are one of a kind to help bring your business and your living space from boring to beautiful.
Awesome. All right. So I am Becky Mossbrucker. I am the owner of Forward Safety Training. I teach women how to protect themselves and their families in many different methods. So I have an online community that I'm starting up. I have a couple of private Facebook groups. And I'm moving a lot of that over to a different network to get it off of Facebook. But anyway, so that's what I'm doing. And I am also organizing all the workshops this year on the PWN board and trying to keep everybody hopping and awake with great information. And I thank Miss Pat so much for doing this for us. It is free to members and it costs $10, only $10 for guests. So if you know anybody else who wants to get in on any of the other workshops we have coming up, we've got several in April and May and June. We're leaving to do some other fun things. So anyway, share anytime you see these workshops on your Facebook post or on the Peninsula Women's Facebook post, you can share them off to your own site so they get more traction and we'll get more people and hopefully we'll get some more new members out of it. So Miss Pat, why don't you go ahead? We'll let you go ahead and start your presentation and your introduction.
All right, well, I want to go ahead and share my screen now, I think. And so let me do this first. Wait a second. I can't do both. Share my screen here. Okay. But all right, so I'm Pat Harvey. I am an independent graphic designer. I've been a PWN member for a long time. Briefly joined way back in 1981 for a year, and then spent the next several years going to school and teaching school and raising kids and doing all kinds of things. I rejoined in 2001 when I started my graphic design business. And I work mostly with small business people and professionals, helping them, as I say, look professional on paper. And of course, these days it's also on the web, etc. So one of the things that I deal with all the time when I'm working with small business people is working with their marketing materials, and we talk about logos. Because generally speaking, that is one of the very first things that an individual who is starting a business wants to have done. They want to have a logo. So I'm going to share a quick story with you. A couple years ago, I met a woman at a PWN function, and we chatted, as you want to do, exchanged business cards, and a few months later, she called me, gave me a call, and telling me that she needed some marketing materials for her personal services business. As we talked, I learned that she had been in business for about a year or so and already had a logo. I subsequently did a trifold brochure for her, as well as a rack card and business cards. During a follow-up call a while later, I learned that she had had a pretty unsettling experience. While she was placing her brochures in a medical practice waiting room, she noticed a competitor's brochure sporting her exact same logo on the table. I mean, you know, what are the chances? Pretty good, it seems, if you use a word art icon as your logo, which is what she had done. And so, as well as her competitor. So today I'm just going to share with you some of my 20 years experience working with small business entrepreneurs and professionals, helping them to develop their marketing materials, especially logos. So on to our next slide. And basically, I'm gonna focus on three basic questions. One is, how do you translate your idea, if you have a business, into a graphic image, also known as a logo? What tools are available to use? And why does your logo need to be a vector graphic? Which is, it's one of the most important items on the list of things that need to be considered when you're developing a logo. So question one, so let's say your idea is to start a dog grooming business, okay? This is my client, Frances Bright's story. She, so basically what I'm going to do here is share a recent logo project that I did for a client, Frances Bright, who is starting her dog grooming services business. When Frances came to me, she had already selected her business name. So it was my job to help her create an image, a logo that communicates what her business is all about. And toward that end, the challenge is to make sure that your clients or customers can actually see what you are saying, meaning that your logo has to communicate what you actually do or provide in words and images. As it turns out, Frances has a little Chihuahua dog who just happens to be named Bubbles. I love it when serendipity happens. It's just great. But what we would find ourselves doing next was searching for images on how to communicate the Bubbles and Bark message in a graphic image or logo. So a great place to start takes us to question two, which deals with tools and a search for images. There are at least a gazillion stock image sites to browse for ideas and images. I use Adobe Stock, which is a subscription service and part of my professional software package. But there are a lot of other choices, including Getting Images, iStock, Photos, Shutterstock, Dreamstime. I don't know. I did a search and I couldn't believe. When I first started doing this, there was only like 2 or 3. Now there are dozens, literally. Some offer free images, but even if they are royalty-free images, for instance, that does not necessarily mean that they are copyright-free. And I'll talk more about copyright issues later on, which are pretty important. Also, it's important to read the fine print. As noted above, we will be looking for vector graphics. That's what this is right here, illustrations, videos, audio, et cetera, but vector graphics. And as noted, I'll explain a little little while later why that's so important. Quick note, browsing image sites, Google Images, etc., is also a great strategy for getting and developing ideas for logos. By the way, any file you decide to download should have the suffix .ai right here or .eps. Quick note number 2, using stock vector graphics as a basis for developing your logo rather than creating a logo from scratch will help you to keep costs down, okay, because you're already starting with something. All righty, so after doing an image search for little Chihuahua dogs, because Frances was determined to have her pup be featured as in her logo, Frances and I settled on several likely prospects, including the one displayed on the left side, which just happened to be the one Frances elected to have me work with to develop into a logo. The adjusted graphic on the right, which is this one right here, takes the cute dog on the left from pretty bland to cute and appealing, and includes the bubbles, which ties right into not only the dog's name, but also the name of her business. So the appealing part is accomplished by isolating the face from the image, straighten it out a bit, changing the ears to pink and the outline to a dark brown, which tied into her office color scheme. I also added an eye sparkle, a nose highlight, and I changed the color of the sort of the eyeshadow, and which actually gives a little dimension to the eye, and pointed the whisker first. So there was just the graphic at this point is workable. It's really cute. We did also work with a full-size graphic, which I'll give you a glimpse of, but there's a lot of different ways that you can use a logo once you get it to this stage where you have an element to work with. So there we go. We've got, and there's Bubble. Bubbles is the star of our story here. Of course, the story is not really complete without words, which introduce a whole new dimension into the development of a logo. So Bubbles Embark is the title of the book, or excuse me, this is the title of Frances's business, and I'm just going to let you know how we got our letters. So, of course, we're going to be dealing with fonts, which is another logo development tool. Okay, whoops. Did I go? Where did I go? Went too far ahead. Font, which is another logo development tool. Okay. And the question here is how to choose the right font, which is always a challenge. Basically, when you're choosing a font, you want to be there. There are several things to consider. The most important is readability. Never forget, there was a restaurant across the parking lot from the Home Depot. It was a kind of a Thai restaurant or something, and it was new. And from the Home Depot across the parking lot, I absolutely could not read that restaurant's the name of the restaurant. It just the font was so busy that it was impossible to read it. You also want to have needs to have interest, and you also need to consider how the logo type will be used. In my experience, people tend to fall in love with fonts. The fancier, the better. And at this point, I hadn't really decided which font would work best for Frances's business logo. So I set up a style sheet with several fonts that I thought might work and sent it off to her to take a look. So she wouldn't have to necessarily be looking through literally, who knows, a million uh, different fonts. So by the time I got back with Francis, and I had determined that of all of the ones that are presented here, that Century Gothic would work the best. Anybody have a clue as to why that might be the case? No? Anybody? No?
It looks like it's kind of clear and plain. You could see it from a distance. It's not
Yes.
overly fancy.
Yes, and we'll talk about that. You're exactly right, Barbara. But the other thing to note is that the B's and the A are perfect circles. And being perfect circles, they are great for including bubbles, okay?
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, so here, if I go back here to bubbles and bark, you can see the bubbles fit right inside the circles, okay? So yeah, it's just a kind of a fun little thing there. So all right, so after we had made and I'll tell you to be what the one that Francis liked was Harrington, which one is Harrington right here. So you can see that that is a fancy font. True to form, she wanted the fancy one. So, but anyways, all right. So now this is what I said. We did actually use the whole entire dog in a couple things, but this is just a mock-up. But it tells why readability is so important. The photo in the slide is, and like I said, a mock-up, and it's designed to give Francis and the sign folks a visual of how the signage should look when completed by a commercial sign company. I do not do commercial signage, all right? I can do all other kinds of signage, street signs, interior signage, but I don't do outdoor commercial signage. It's important to consider just how the business logo will be used. If your logo will be used mainly on letterhead, invoices, or maybe a website, readability is still important, but possibly not critical. However, if your logo will be used on retail or vehicle signage, readability is just absolutely vital. So the next thing we need to consider is we're working our way all the way down to question 3, which is why your logo needs to be a vector graphic. And maybe, I don't know you, but a lot of folks don't have a clue. Does anybody have how many of you are familiar with the term vector graphic? You know what it is. Okay, Becky does. Anybody else?
I know the term, but I don't know what it means exactly.
All righty, well, we'll take a look, see. Okay, so what is a vector graphic? And this is one of the best descriptions, definitions of what a vector graphic is that I've seen. There's an artwork made of points, lines, and curves that are based on mathematical equations rather than solid colored square pixels, which is your basic photograph or JPEG. This means no matter how large or how small or how close you zoom in on the image, the lines, curves, and points remain smooth. Ready? So I'm going to go ahead and show you. This is a sort of a diagram, and it shows the points, right, that construct. Basically, all fonts are vector images, by the way, unless they have been converted into text, into pixel fonts. And the one beside it, the A beside it, shows how the curves are constructed. This, you can see, a pixel image is made up of little square colored, little squares of color. And there is just a completely different concept. If you're thinking in terms of way back in the day when there were drawing programs on computer and there were paint programs. This is a drawing program. this is a painting program, okay? This little graphic here will give you a sense of the difference between a vector and pixel-based graphic in terms of it being able to be enlarged. So if you take this left, the butterfly on the left, and you isolate this top corner, which is what has been done here, and enlarge it, you can see that the lines are straight. There's no blurring on the edges. They're perfectly crisp. The pixel graphic looks fine when it's this small in comparison with the vector graphic. Couldn't tell the difference really. But if you take and isolate that same corner and you blow it up, you can see that now you can see that this whole, even though it's a solid color, it's all made up of squares of color. And that makes the edges blur. And the bigger you make it, the more you're going to be able to see those pixels. Okay. It's the neat thing about a vector graphic is that this graphic right here can be used whether this exact same file it will be a .eps or a .ai and extension at the end of the file, and that file can be used on a postage stamp or can be used on a billboard. Makes the exact same file. That absolutely is not the case for a pixel-based graphic. It is really confined to the resolution and size that it is. You go and move beyond that and you're going to end up with pixelations or blurred graphics. So, all right, I'm going to go ahead here. I have these two little guys here. These are both vector graphics. And I think I'm going to, I hope I can get this to show. Can you guys see the bee? Okay, so this is an Illustrator file and I have opened it in Adobe Illustrator. And if I click on the path, you can see that there is this is called an anchor point right here. And the red is a path. And so there's several anchor points on that path. And if I take and grab that anchor and move it out, that will change the shape completely. Okay. Every last one of these little shapes is composed of anchor points and curves. So you can click the curves and create your shape like that. This little piece right here is a shape all of its own. You can see that it's curved, so it's got all these points. If I clicked on either one of these points, you could, you can't see them because they're too close together, but you could see they will still have the, let's see, here we go. Well, they will still have the handles, which determine the shape of the curve, right? I can take and delete them. There, you know, each one of these pieces is a separate piece. Okay. Now this is a very simple graphic, but they can be amazingly complex. So this bee is made up of every last one of these little blue lines that you see is a completely different shape. There's thousands and thousands and thousands of them. You can just go through here and isolate all these different shapes that make up this graphic. This piece right here, see if I can get it to show. Yeah, it's not wanting to do it. Oh yeah, here we go. This is a graduated, a mesh graduated tone. It's very complex. So, you know, they can be simple or complex. For your logo, chances are pretty good you want to have it fairly simple. One of these can be, it's complex, but it can also be pretty dense in terms of the data, in terms of the size of the file size. Alrighty, let's go back to our next. So here here's an illustration of why you really need to have a vector graphic. Suppose you only have your logo as a plain, ordinary JPEG file, and you want to place it over a colored background and say Microsoft Word or on your website. And fortunately, you will likely get an unwanted effect. That is a white background around your logo, such as shown in this slide. However, if you have a vector graphic, you could export it. You can, when you save it, you can export it as a .png file, which which has a transparent background, and that can be used in Word documents. If your background is white, it's no big deal. It's not a problem, unless you want this file to go on top of text, in which case it would block out the text. So that's something to consider. And this is what a PNG file would look then. So if you, like I said, if you exported that EPS graphic, that vector graphic as a PNG file, then you could put it over top of the any colored background, because the file background itself is transparent. So going here, if you want to place your logo on promotional items, then you need to be concerned that you have a vector graphic, because nearly every promotional site will ask you to send up a vector graphic. And so there you have that. It's difficult to manage that if you don't have a vector graphic in your arsenal of tools. So what you want to do is you want to consider that your vector graphic is your mother file. Okay, it's your mother file. Long story short, it's like I said, because you can, from this vector graphic, you can create all other files, whether it's a JPEG, PNG file, PDF files, you name it. The reverse is not true. You cannot take a Photoshop file and create a vector shop out of it, or a JPEG and create a vector file out of it, because they are two completely different types of files. So you just want to keep that in mind when you are if somebody asks you some questions about whether or not, or how they want to set it up, tell them. If you don't remember anything else, just say, well, Pat said you need to have a what? Vector file, .eps or .ai. Okay. So I did mention that I would talk about copyright, because copyright does create some issues with graphic design, period, and with logos as well, as part of the whole project. But since you're starting from your logo is generally done at the outset, so you want to pay attention to copyright issues. And basically, a copyright is a legal right created by the law of a country that grants the creator of an original work exclusive rights for its use and distribution. This is usually only for a limited time. The exclusive rights are not absolute, but limited by limitations and exceptions to copyright law, including fair use, which I used to make when I was teaching, definitely made use of the fair use exemption in copyright law. The next thing, another term to be concerned or familiar with is royalty-free. Long story short, royalty-free means a licensee, which would be you, if you use an image from a stock image site, can use a work without owning the copyright or paying royalties on a per use basis. Copyright fee means the copyright itself has, copyright free means the copyright itself has expired, or a second party has acquired the right to use that work. So like I said, here generally means that you pay for a one-time fee in exchange for the right to use a photograph. So if you, sometimes they if you go to a free site, there's no, you don't pay for the royalty fee. But if you work with a subscription, the royalty fees are included in the subscription for the like Adobe Stock Photography or Getty Images, which are pretty pricey, by the way. Or other something. So basically, exchange for the right to use the photograph or some other work protected by copyright, patent, or trademark according to agreed upon terms, with no ongoing license fees due for further use. It doesn't mean, however, that the work is copyright free. A lot of people get those confused. Royalty free means that you don't have to pay for the rights to, or the use of the photograph, but that doesn't mean that you can just use it any which way you want to. So you still have to honor the copyright. So, but there's another tricky question, and which I've run into recently, more than, a couple of times recently. Are graphic designers protected by copyright law? And you, Barbara, I know you know that photographers are. And the answer is yes. US copyright law protects a type of work referred to as a compilation. Basically, a compilation is a work formed by the collection and is assembling of pre-existing materials or data that are selected, coordinated, or arranged in such a way that the resulting work as a whole constitutes an original work of authorship. So for instance, if I take, when I took the bubbles, little bubbles face, added the bubbles to it, put it together with the font to create Bubbles and Bark logo, that is a compilation. And basically, that's my property, right? That's my property. I created it. I'm protected by copyright law to that extent. So next question is, and like I said, this is something that's been coming up a couple of times recently. So does that mean that my graphic designer owns my logo? And the answer is yes, really, honestly. So, so you pay for it, right? It's yours, right? But maybe not. Yeah, I had exactly the same reaction. And my client also, not because of me. This is an interesting little story. So, so what do you need to do to make sure you have full rights to the use of your logo? But I'm going to tell you a little story beforehand, and this is what really got me going on this. I met with a gentleman who was a potential client. I didn't end up doing work for him, unfortunately, but that's the way things go. But he had his logo, which was done by a designer, a local designer, printer person. And anytime they, and this person, the designer, kept the rights to the logo, gave the gentleman I was speaking to a JPEG, and so he had, that was his logo. She designed it, gave him the logo, gave him the JPEG. Anytime he needed to use it for promotional materials, swag or whatever, then she charged him, and a pretty hefty price too. I was really surprised, and he didn't seem to think that was a problem. But personally, I tell you honestly, I think it's unethical, and I would never do that. I feel like if a person buys and pays for a logo, they need to have all the rights to it. So, but in any case, this is what you need to do or to consider to make sure that you have the full use of your logo. And there's basically 5 things. And I actually have a little article on my blog, which I wrote after I had this experience with this gentleman. Now, number 1, make sure the price you are paying to develop your logo includes all usage rights. Okay, that's pretty important. Establish upfront and in writing that your logo designer release all copyright claims regarding your logo. Number 3, ensure that your logo package contains a vector graphic .eps or .ai file, along with the file formats needed for all forms of print and digital media. You should get just about everything that you possibly could think of that you would need to use your logo for, whether it's a PNG file, whatever it is, you should get every file format that you need. I will say at this point though, if you get an EPS graphic, you essentially have the rights to use that logo have been assigned to you. Because once it's in your possession, you can do whatever you want with it. And there's no way the designer can get it back, okay? Oh, I guess it could sue you, but really and honestly, once you have the EPS graphic, you are pretty much good to go. If there is any possibility that you will want to trademark your logo in the future, this is kind of important. Make sure your logo does not incorporate copyrighted graphics in its development. Now, Frances is not planning on trademarking her Bubbles and Bark logo or company. Yeah, she can copyright things. She can put the little copyright on it if she wants to. There's no problem with that. But trademarking is a whole entire legal process. And if it incorporates work that is already copywritten, then you can't, or copyrighted, you can't get it trademarked. So if you want to franchise your business or something like that, you want to, it's going to cost you a lot more money to get a logo created. Just as a, and the last one, which is something that crops up for me a billion times from Sunday, is want to keep your logo files in a safe place and don't lose track of them. Recreating your logo could be an expensive proposition and one that may re-expose you to copyright issues. So invariably, I get somebody who will want to do something with their logo and they only can find a pixelated JPEG or it's just on their website, which makes me pretty crazy, to be truth be told. And so I will be in a position of basically having to recreate the logo for them so that they have a functional file. Now, here, I know I included this slide because I'm sure that there are a bunch of DIYers among us who want to experiment with consumer and online and standalone vector graphic software. So I've collected a number of vector graphic software offerings with ratings from an online source that has a lot of useful information. And if you're interested, I will share that URL with you. Full disclosure though, I haven't tried any of these. I use Adobe Illustrator, which has a pretty steep learning curve and is pricey to use, but it's professional software, so that's what I use. That being the case, I wouldn't recommend attempting to use Adobe Illustrator, but I do know Corel Draw has been around for quite some time. The rest of these, I don't really know. Some of them are free to, like for a month or whatever, there's a trial period, and then you pay whatever the going rate is for it. A couple of them are actually free. So they might be useful to experiment with. You can get an idea of how the vector graphic functions, what you can do with it. If you're working with a designer, I always like it when somebody comes to me with an idea, either an idea that has been fleshed out or roughed out on a piece of paper or examples, the things just pasted into a Word document or that sort of thing. So that's pretty much it. And so we are at the, guess what? Yeah. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer, whatever I can. So just let me know.
Pat, thank you. This is Kathleen. That was very informative.
Okay.
I didn't know the difference between the vector file and a PNG or JPEG, the pixel. That was a lesson, a good lesson.
All right. Well, I tell you honestly, when you're talking in terms of logo design, that really is the critical issue, to make sure that you have a file that is functional. And if you look around at logos that have been anywhere, you will see that they tend to be pretty simple, basic files. They're not going to be really complex because they have to be read quickly. Okay, you have to be able to see them and recognize them quickly, which is why now the Bubbles and Bark. I think it's a cool logo. The dog is just adorable, and so I was pretty happy with the way it turned out. We also have different versions of it. We have versions where it's stacked, where the Bubbles is on top. So there's Bubbles can be isolated, and the text can be isolated. Can be used in a lot of different ways. So, like I said, any questions? I'd be happy to.
I have a question about copywriting.
All right.
Should I have, or should anybody have some kind of wording like on their website that says like this, these graphics or these images are copyrighted, like do not use for personal use or whatever, as a blanket statement? Or would we only want to put something like that on an individual image?
There's a couple ways you can do it. You can stick a little copyrighted, a little copyright symbol, little C inside of a circle, right on your logo. The other thing is, and anything that you put on your website, at the very bottom of your website, it should say copyright date, whatever, and that covers every single thing that's on your website.
Okay.
And so everything that you put on your website is copyrighted. One thing I do see people do, I didn't put it in here because it's not really related to logos per se, but sometimes folks will take and use a screenshot from a website or whatever and incorporate that into a blog post or whatever, which is really, that's a copyright infringement. And chances are you're not going to end up, in jail for the rest of your life or something on it, but it's not a good practice. If you need an image, it's best, Barbara can go get you an image for sure, or you can go to any one of the literally gazillion billion stock photography sites that are out there, Google Images, you name it, and a lot of them are free. So, or if you got, your camera, for the love, I just got one that's supposed to be, I haven't even had a chance to use the camera on it, but there's so many options for getting images that taking a screenshot and appropriate. Plus, if a screenshot is screen resolution 72 dots per inch, and if you try to go and have that printed, you're going to end up with a low resolution image that is not going to look good. So, yeah, there's copyright issues, but I think you're safe if you put the copyright at the bottom of your website. Everything on it is protected by copyright.
Okay. Another question I have is, why would you want to trademark your logo or any of your images? Like, what advantage is it to trademark something?
It offers additional protection, I'm sure. Plus, if you, I think it would be especially important if you were, like I said, trying to franchise your business, then you would almost have to trademark your logo. Just think of all the franchise operations out there. Those logos are unique and individual, whether it's Chick-fil-A. I was just looking at the Chick-fil-A. That is a really cool logo. Anyways, I was driving down the road and I was looking at the Chick-fil-A logo and I thought, wow, that's pretty cool. But anyways, my clientele is not really there. Okay, I deal with small business people who are, I don't know, they're electricians, they're whatever, or they are small retail operations, or they are professionals. So they're not interested in franchising their business. But if you were, you might want to consider it. If I were thinking about franchising my business, if I really thought that wasn't an option, I would check with an attorney who specialized in that. We used to have one in PWN way back in the day. I can't even remember her name now, but I did actually work with her with somebody who wanted to franchise, thought that they would. They never ended up doing it because it's not an inexpensive process. All righty. Anything else?
I don't want to hog up all the questions. Come on, ladies. Okay.
I just think it's very interesting because, you know, we've been using various types of logos, I know forever, when I came into the business about 11, 12 years ago. And I just wanted a simple butterfly. And I saw one and I contacted the designer and asked if I may use it. And he said, yes, any way that you want to.
Oh, wow.
And then I spoke with Nyla, who was a part of our group for a while. And she said that I needed to do some other things, you know, to convert it over so that it could be used in brochures and other things of that nature. So I learned a little bit then, but I know the process has improved since then. So that's why I wanted to hear what you were sharing with us tonight. So thank you so much.
Well, you know that you say the process has improved, but really the process is pretty much the same as it's been ever since I started doing this. And way back in the Hinter years, I did I got a associate's degree in commercial art a long time ago when we were doing paste up and everything was actually drawn. Okay, that was really before commercial computers were available. And so when graphic design software began to make its become available, that's when the whole thing really took off. But they, ever since the very beginning, remember I said something about there used to be paint and drawing projects. That's really essentially where we are right now. Okay, we still have the drawing programs that are lines, dots, curves. Okay, so they're vectors, referred to as vectors, and the paint programs, which are creating with squares of color, pixels. So it's been the same. Yes, it's being refined all the time. I don't know about all of this consumer software, which I just did some basic research on to see about whether or not, you know, it would be useful or not. I'm not really tempted because I know what I can do with, you know, Illustrator, and I'm quite sure that these have to be pretty limited in order to be presented the way they are. But they might be adequate for something simple. So I don't know.
Does Adobe Photoshop have does Adobe have free classes still online? Because I would like to know something real basic, like how to take a background out of a picture or how to crop like a person in a scene and take them out and put them in a different background. And I
Well, you
to
can
do
go
that?
to YouTube and it'll explain to you how to do it.
Okay.
That YouTube has, I mean, a lot of times that's what I will do if I can't. Well, one of the things about Adobe is with the software, because it's a script, used to be able to buy the software completely, totally, or you would buy a suite of software. I don't know, about 5, 6 years ago, or maybe, I don't know, it's hard to tell at this stage. But Adobe started selling subscriptions to their software. And so right now I subscribe to, and basically I can have any of the like 20 different software programs that Adobe has to offer. I use Adobe, I use Adobe Illustrator, InDesign, which is a page layout program, Photoshop, and the Acrobat, professional Acrobat program. Those are the ones I use most all the time, basically those 4. And, but when they changed, since it's subscription, they just change the program all the time. And sometimes I will find that I'm going to look for a tool that is here, only they have revised it and it's over here. And they're always refining the tools. Sometimes the refining is really helpful. And then other times it's like, why didn't you just leave it the hell alone? So anyways, I would go to YouTube. Cropping out the background is a whole entire thing. It can be pretty simple or it can be enormously complicated. Just depends.
I know I've had a hard time like drawing around a body, you know, and my line gets a little bit off. And the next thing you know, I've got his ears cut off, or, you know, her arm, half of her arm is missing. And I get so frustrated. I'm like, I'm done. No, forget it. It's just whatever.
But you can always ask Pat.
I will. Thank you. All right. Any other questions, ladies? This was great. Thank you so much.
Well,
I have a question.
yes.
Now, Pat, is this just part 1 and we're going to have another part?
It was set up to be 2 parts, but as I was working on this, I decided that to do a whole lot more is really getting into the weeds. And the simple fact of the matter is, I can't necessarily teach what I know in an hour or 45 minutes.
I get you. Okay.
And so by the time I finished this one, I decided that I have isolated and identified the things that most people really kind of need to know when they get started to think about developing a logo.
Okay. I get you.
So, I mean, let's see, the second part of it was supposed to be, let's see, what was it here?
How to use it in branding.
Yeah, let's see, is how to use your business logo. Well, building basics, how to use your business logo. That ends up being a really open-ended question. And basically I have answered it in here, in this logo, in this little presentation. You're going to use it basically wherever and however you need it. You need a vector graphic for signage, absolutely. You can use it, like I said, small, and you can export it in most any Illustrator, for instance, will allow you to export it. Plus, if you get your graphic package correct from the designer, it will have a JPEG, it will have a Photoshop document, it will have a GIF file, it will have a PNG file, it will have all these different files, the PDF files. And those, now I could just say, you know, what is good, what files are good for what particular set of circumstances. That might be useful. but it's, you know, it's, I'm not too real sure that I can flesh out that as well as I would like without getting really involved. So. But if you have some specific questions, you can always give me a call. If I can answer it within a reasonable amount of time, I would be happy to help you out. Without thousands of dollars worth of remuneration. Probably zero.
You know what we ought to do is we ought to, maybe Barbara, this is a good thing. Maybe Barbara, you can do something next week of Pat's April 8th thing that has to do with graphics, like picture taking, like what kind of tips? You don't have to necessarily like put together a presentation, but like a top 10 list of things you need to know to take pictures that you might want to use for a logo, or that you might want to use as a poster, or you might, I mean, there's something to do with graphic design.
Mm-hmm.
Think about it.
Okay. And you said what's the date now for when?
Well, we could do it next week in place of the second half of Pat's presentation, next, whatever it is, Thursday, I guess it is, April 8th. Or we could do it on a different night. It doesn't have to be next week. We have another couple of dates open in April and May, but that might be an idea.
Okay, well, let me think about it and, give me a little bit of time to kind of, work towards it.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll send you some other dates.
Okay.
Perfect.
Pat, this was great because I had heard the term vector graphics and I just knew it was something dealing with that you could use with logos, and that's about all I knew after that. But I did want to ask you, you were talking about if you sit down with someone to do your logo, be sure you get it as a vector graphic and some other things you were saying. So
Yes.
basically, you should kind of get a lot of this in writing, shouldn't you?
You should. And whenever I give a little one-page proposal / contract, and it will say what I am doing, what I need from the client in order to accomplish that, and what they will get, which is basically their logo in all these different file formats. I have one thing else I didn't show you. This is a little, if we got a couple of seconds, this is just a little 1-minute video that Adobe Illustrator puts out, and they create this little owl logo, which is just kind of fun to watch. It's just, we got a minute?
Yeah, go ahead. It's
All right,
fine.
I forgot about it. So there it is. So using the tools, using those are little curves, the little circles down there are curves, duplicating the shape and creating it smaller, adding a circle to create a eye. All right, duplicating, flipping it, and then creating a, watch how they do this. We're going to get a little, so that, you see how simple that looked? I can't tell you how complicated that was. Yeah, it's but that's a cute little logo that they put together just using those simple shapes. So it's
Would have never thought that.
Pardon me?
I would have never thought that.
Yeah, it's a very powerful tool. It's created a whole entire industry, and an amazingly diverse industry. Everything from printing to all of the online activity. It's absolutely amazing to me. When I first started this, I was using some pretty rinky-dink software, working on a Mac Plus with a screen that was like this big. This is a long time ago. So, seen a lot of changes.
I bet.
And I just kind of feel like it was created for me.
Well, this is great. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time putting all this together. It was very informational.
All right, well, good. I appreciate that you folks did show up to take a look. See, that's good.
Absolutely. And it'll be on their recording for anybody else who wants to see it later for members anyway.
Okay. And like I said, if you want any information, just, give me a call. You have a question or whatever, just ask me. I'll answer it the best I can.
Yeah, this was great. I'm definitely going to have to watch the replay. I was trying to take notes and I'm cooking too. Yeah, but this was great. Yep. Learned a lot.
Good.
All right, well, that's wonderful. That's what it's all about.
All right. Well, thank you very much, ladies, for joining in. We'll see you on the next one.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Have a good night, everybody.
You too.
Good night.
Bye-bye.